Hey Bobcats, I forgot to hit record today in one of my classes, so I am doing a quick video to show you what we covered today. These are some of the problems from your homework last night, so if you need to pause it and check your answers, you can. I'm just going to flip through it real quick. If you have any questions about your homework, we have extra help today in Zoom from 2:15 to 2:45. There is a link to the Zoom call in Otis on the daily slides. All right, here is the entrance ticket from yesterday. Let me just point out that the couple of the things that happened were some people forgot that a proportion is two ratios that are equal to each other, or ratios that are equivalent in value. So to see if this is proportional, we have to set up two ratios, use the butterfly method, and see that it is not proportional. Down here, the biggest problem that we had was the graphing. I'd highly recommend that you do the graphing on a separate sheet of paper before you try to graph it in Google Docs. A lot of people really wanted that line to go through 0, 0, so they made it arc down. But when you graph your points, you're going to see that it actually makes a straight line. So a lot of people got this question right, but for the wrong reason. They said it's not proportional, but they said it's not proportional because it's not linear. It actually is linear, but it doesn't go through 0, 0. Okay? All right, let's get your notes set up so you can take some notes for today. Okay, so make sure you get all your information on there.
I'm just taking apart random parts of this leather truck I have here.
Okay, so today your learning target is
Why would I not come back as much as I
I can identify the constant
We don't actually really know because Jordan is on a different schedule.
of proportionality in equations. Okay, so to do this, we're going to look at an example. We're going to graph an equation because we need to find the constant of proportionality for this equation. So we're going to graph the equation y is equal to 2/3 x. Okay. Now before we can graph it, we need some points. So I'm going to create what is called a T-chart. It's called a T-chart because it looks like a big T. It's also known as an input-output chart, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a second. Our x is always the input, and our y is always the output. They're very appropriately named because what we do is we pick some values for x to be. So I'm just going to keep it simple. So I'm going to do 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what I do is I put these values in for x, solve it, and get a value out for y, which is why the x is called the input, because you literally put that value in, and this is the output because that's the value that you get out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. 2/3 times 0 is going to be 0. So there you go. If you plug in 1, 2/3 times 1 is 2/3. This is also a special value in our T-chart because this right here is the unit rate. It is also the constant of proportionality, which we'll get back to in just a minute. Now let's plug in 2. 2/3 times 2 is 1 1/3. 2/3 times 3 is going to be 2. And then 2/3 times 4 is 2 2/3. So now that we have some ordered pairs here, we can graph it. So I'm going to create my graph over here, my coordinate plane on the right side. Now the nice thing is, now that you have all of your ordered pairs there, you can pick a scale for your graph that works best for this problem. Okay, so I have the numbers 1 through 4 over here, 0 through 4. I'm actually going to spread those out. I'll make this 1, 2, 3, 4. That way they're not all on top of each other. And then I can see that I'm getting thirds out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually count by thirds here. So this is 1/3, 2/3, 1. So this will be 2, and this will be 3. Now I'm going to go through and plot my points. So 0, 0, 1 and 2/3, 2 and 1/3, 3 and 2, and you could also graph that last point, but it is clear what's happening here. You can see the shape of this. It's creating a nice straight line. Now let's go ahead and use our skills to find that constant of proportionality given the graph. Okay, so you can choose any of these points. I'm just going to choose this one because they're whole numbers, and I just like working with whole numbers. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is pick a point, because whenever we're finding the constant of proportionality from a graph, we pick a point. And so I'm going to use this point right here, 3, 2. And then I'm going to find K, find my constant of proportionality. And just a reminder, it's Y over X. So your K is going to be 2/3. Now here's my question for you. Where else have you seen 2/3 in this? So this is not the first time you've seen 2/3, right? You've seen it right here as well, because it is the unit rate and the constant of proportionality. But you've also seen it right here. So what that means is you did not need to do all of this. Just by looking at the equation, you can see that the constant of proportionality is going to be 2/3. Any equation that's in this form, y is equal to 2/3 x, then your constant of proportionality is right there, okay? So let's practice this. So identify K. So let's do this equation. What I want you to do is I just want you to tell me what K equals. Write that in your notes. What do you think K equals? Okay, so pause it if you need to. Write in what you think K is, and then we'll go over it in a second. Hopefully, you see that the constant of proportionality is right here. So your constant of proportionality for that equation is 22. For this equation, it's 4. For this equation, it's 2 and 25/100. Okay. And so then, if you have any equation in this form, so you have y equals some number times x, then you will always be able to find your constant of proportionality. It's always what's being multiplied by your x. So just a reminder, this is the input, this is the output, and right here, this is your constant of proportionality. Okay, so what I need you to do is make sure that you finish your work for, oh goodness, that whole time you guys weren't able to see that. Okay, if you need to write this down, you can. Make sure you do your practice for today. It's linked into assessments in Otis, and please email me if you have any questions.